Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Rams feasted on Sam Darnold in a huge NFC West matchup. Also, the Eagles tried to fight off Jared Goff and the Lions, and the Broncos delivered their 8th straight win.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
It was billed as an NFC slugfest among what might have been the two best teams in the NFC. The Rams won, we'll say that. And Doug McCain from Locked On Rams will help us sort through all of this in a game where Sam Darnold throws 4 interceptions. And the biggest play of the game might have been one of the best punts I've ever seen at the end of the game. A 21-19 win for the Rams. Doug, I said, from Locked On Rams joins me now. And Doug, what are we supposed to take away from this game?
I'll say what Sean McVay said after the game. There is no style points in this league. And you look at that Seahawks team, that's a ferocious defense. They lived up to the hype. The way that they were able to get pressure and the fact that the Rams tight ends weren't doing a good job blocking their studs on the line, it really kind of changed their offense. You didn't see as much 13 personnel. You kind of went back to that 11 personnel. But I want to start with what you talked about. Ethan Evans. Peter, I have never rewatched a punt this many times after a game. Like, I've seen this punt 10 times. It might be the most glorious punt I've ever seen in all my years watching football, which is since I was a baby, over 30 years. I mean, this is one of those punts that you talk about that really just changed the game because it's less than 2 minutes to play. It's a 2-point lead. You're kicking. You could go the safe route or you could kick it in the end zone. It ends up at the 1. And yes, they drove the ball down the field to get a 61-yarder by Myers in attempt. But I'm telling you, if that is a bad punt, if it's a touchback, I don't think the Rams win this game.
Well, and think about it. Okay, so they get a 61-yard field goal, add 20. Okay, that's a much more makeable field goal. I mean, that felt like the difference in the game. The other side of this, Doug, is if you're a Rams fan, you're going, we got 4 picks off the most explosive offense in the NFL, or one of the top 5, right? Like no matter how you slice it, and you're having to scratch and fight and claw to win a game.
Exactly, and they got outgained 414 to 249, 165 yards, but it was the red zone defense. They go 1 for 4 in the red zone. They held that Seahawks team to 25% in the red zone, and that was the difference. They did not get their first touchdown of the game until late in the fourth quarter. They didn't score until 2:27 left. That was the first touchdown they scored in the game. So, yeah, I mean, 4 interceptions. Sam Darnold, yes, you hear the jokes, him seeing ghosts, but really it was a lot of great individual efforts. Like Kobe Durant, by Cam Kinchins, like Emmanuel Forbes really battled JSN and at least went out there and competed. And that's kind of what this team has been. I mean, you haven't had the best overall performance every single game, but they just find a way to compete. They find a way to win. And when they needed to make plays to kind of win one for the offense, they certainly did that. So, yeah, kudos to the defense stepping up the way they did and getting pressures when they needed to. And I'll give you another Sean McVay quote that he said after the game when McVay was told that they didn't register a sack all day against Sam Darnold. They hit him 3 times. He said, stats are for losers. So, Peter, I know you're a stat guy. I'm a big stat guy. I felt attacked. But, hey, yes. I see what he's trying to say there.
Yeah, and it has to be said, the what ended up being the game-winning points for the LA Rams, the late touchdown in the fourth quarter, came off an interception. So it's not like they did nothing with the interceptions. It took that late turnover. They didn't have to move the ball very far to get that touchdown. It ends up being just a 25-play drive in 4 plays to get that touchdown. So they made the most of it. This is also a divisional game. Like, those games get weird, and winning those games matter. And right now, the Rams, you look at the rest of the schedule, doesn't it make you look back and go, man, if we could have just blocked a little bit better on the field goal attempt against the Philadelphia Eagles, they'd be in pole position here for the 1 seed.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at all these different models right now. After this win, you see the Rams with a 64% chance to win the NFC West. But you're absolutely right, Peter. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to go full 72 Dolphins here, but at least it would have been a little later in the season that they were going to pop those champagne bottles in those box seats, because this is a Rams team that if it weren't for some of those bad bounces, some of those block kicks against the 49ers and the Eagles, this could be an undefeated team right now. But I do feel like this sort of balances it out. Like, I don't know if you saw Matthew Stafford's reaction to the Myers missed kick. That was all Rams fans, and this is a family show, so we won't repeat what Stafford said. But it felt like the football gods kind of got us today. They did us a solid in this one, so we're kind of breaking even now for, hey, we missed some kicks that lost games, that they miss a kick that lose a game. So you're feeling pretty good about that. I think you said it best. I mean, for this team not to play its best football, that's what all great teams do. They win a multitude of different ways. They win on days where they're not at their best. And you said it best, too. That touchdown to Colby Parkinson late after the interception, that's what won the game. And the difference between this game was the Rams having success in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, going for it on fourth down, having success, and getting big interceptions and turnovers when it matters most as well.
Stay up to date all year on the LA Rams by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Rams on your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Eagles tried to slow down the Lions. Before we get to that, Bryce Young was setting records for the Panthers. The NFL season is rolling right along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young passed for a franchise record 448 yards in an overtime win over the Falcons.
Bryce Young delivers a career performance and the gutsiest performance we've seen from a Panthers quarterback in a long time in a 30-27 win on the road against Atlanta. Hi, I'm Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers. Bryce Young, after what was one of his worst performances last Sunday in an awful loss against New Orleans, was constantly questioned throughout the week whether he was the answer for Carolina at quarterback. And all he does is come back on Sunday on the road in Atlanta and throw for a career high 448 yards, including 3 touchdowns, a passing game that had been woefully awful for the most part this season. Finally hit explosive plays, big plays throughout it. And that was because of Bryce, who for the most part this game, 3+ quarters, was playing on a bum right ankle. A gutsy performance by the Panthers quarterback to be able to make this game happen. His 10th career game-winning drive, the most in the NFL since he entered the league in 2023. And now looking at the Panthers are 6-5, heading closer into the holidays. They are firmly in the conversation for not just an NFC South Division title, but a chance to go to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years here in Carolina. For more on the Carolina Panthers, tune in to Locked On Panthers over on YouTube and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Chiefs stumbled to 5-5 after losing to the Broncos.
The Chiefs had opportunities, but they drop a heartbreaker to the Denver Broncos and effectively ended their chances at getting the AFC West title this year. No means are they out of the playoff race, but they will have an uphill battle, especially against the rematch for this Broncos team. Lot to go over, and there are a lot of reasons why. Patrick Mahomes, not his best performance. Travis Kelce, an epic one, but yet it was not enough. Didn't get enough contributions from the rest of the offense. And Andy Reid, despite running a little bit more, didn't double down enough to grind it down to take away the options that the Broncos gave them. It's going to be a challenge for most of the rest of the season. We're going to break it all down for you over on Locked On Chiefs, your team every day.
More on the Broncos side of that coming up in a little bit. The Bills outran the Buccaneers.
The Buffalo Bills win a shootout 44-32 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and get a much needed win against a good Bucs football team. And really the story is this: the Bills have some deficiencies with their football team. Their run defense, not so hot. Offensively, things can look unsettled at times, but the Bills played a wide open style of offense in this game. Josh Allen accounts for 6 touchdowns, nearly 350 yards. And it really just begs the question, is this the style of game the Bills need to be more willing to play? Typically, they're very much a clock control offense, limit possessions. But the variance that was introduced into this game by playing that wide open style really unleashed the playmaking ability of Josh Allen. I'm excited for this win, and I'm very curious to see how this affects how the Bills want to play football games moving forward.
And the Commanders failed to get past the Dolphins in overtime.
First NFL game in Spain is in the books, and for the most part, felt like two teams, Washington Commanders and Miami Dolphins, that simply just didn't want to win the game. Each team making questionable decisions, questionable plays, ultimately giving the other the opportunity to steal their fourth win of the season, respectively. In the end, in overtime, Marcus Mariota throws an interception on the first play of the overtime period. The Miami Dolphins eventually take advantage of that, get the field goal, secure their fourth win. Washington Commanders fall to 3-8, 6-game losing streak, heading into the bye, coming out of it with, at least for now, a primetime game against the Denver Broncos. Another opportunity to get right, but also another opportunity to continue what has been a very frustrating season all around. We're going to dive into all of it, of course, and we'll continue to do so through the bye week, 5 days a week on the Locked On Commanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Eagles did everything they could to slow down Jared Goff and the Lions on Sunday night. Locked On Eagles host Louis DiBiase reacted to another slow, methodical game from Philadelphia.
I know it was windy and cold in South Philadelphia tonight, and that definitely played a part in both sides of the ball. Both teams' offense is struggling. But what this Eagles defense did to an offense that has Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, a good offensive line, to completely dominate them today, where it's maybe the second most aggressive team in football outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. They were not able to convert a single fourth down when you had a bunch of fourth and shorts. You had a fourth down in the red zone, and they completely got shut out by this Eagles front seven and the secondary to hold that team to just 9 points on the year. On that game, when on the year Detroit has been putting up some crazy offensive production, it's unbelievable. They are, I said it during the game, I think now that Jalen Phillips has been added to this defensive line, Nakobe Dean is back healthy, completely dominating. I mean, that sack he had on that blitz in the second half was unreal. The coverage rep he had on Jameson Williams in a close game down the sidelines was perfect. Getting Nolan Smith back and Brandon Graham. The breakout of Moro Ojoma and Jalix Hunt, both of those guys were in Jared Goff's face all day today. The combination of all of that and all the breakouts in the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell right now looks like the best cornerback in the NFL. Cooper DeJean got an interception today. Heck, even Adoree Jackson made two really big-time plays, two forced incompletions in the second half of a one-score game. All of that combined makes me believe that the Eagles' defense we've seen the last two games that's given up a total of 16 combined points to the Lions and Packers, two of the top five teams in this conference, makes me feel like they're just as good as the 2024 Eagles defense, if not better. Because what were the two biggest pieces from last year's defense that you are now missing this year? Or maybe you could say the top three. It was Josh Sweat and Milton Williams on the defensive line, and it was Darius Slay at cornerback. Adoree Jackson has not been Darius Slay from 2024 the last 2 weeks, but the last two games, ever since they traded for Michael Carter and Jair Alexander, that lit a fire under Jackson, and he's played some great football. Now, the Packers didn't really have any receivers to worry about, but against Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown today, he struggled a little bit against Williams, who has all-time great speed. Against St. Brown, he was great. That coverage rep on 4th and goal in the back of the end zone where he punched the ball down to the ground. I mean, what a great rep. He's been a solid player that you're winning with now. You're not winning in spite of. So you've been able to replace Darius Slay. Jalen Phillips, the last two games. I mean, this trade looks even better than the deadline move that Howie made his first Super Bowl season when he got Jay Ajayi. Jalen Phillips has wrecked 2 games in a row. He was all over that field today, had a sack in the first half, consistently got to Jared Goff. I think he's better than what you saw from Josh Sweat the majority of 2024. Now, the Super Bowl, of course, is a different story, but the regular season version of Josh Sweat, what we're getting from Jalen Phillips right now is better than what we saw from Josh Sweat last year. Moro Ojoma, what we saw today against Green Bay, what we've been seeing all year from the Eagles' leader in sacks, has been better than what you got from Milton Williams in 2024. And then you just add all the other young players from last year's team are a year better. And I would say this year's unit is just as good as last year's. And last year's defense was the number one ranked defense in all of football. You can make the argument it's the Denver Broncos this year, but at least over the last 2 games, there has not been a better defense in the entire NFL than the Philadelphia Eagles. And they had to yet again carry an offense that is filled with star, prime, veteran talent on contracts that get them paid top 5 annual salaries for their position every single year, and yet they have not been able to put up over 20 points in back-to-back weeks. Only 2 touchdowns combined in the last 2 games. The fact that the youngest defense in the NFL has to do that is beyond frustrating. It's why it's a conflicting feeling for me after such an important win. It's so encouraging and exciting to see this defense look that good again. But yet it's so infuriating, too, that they have to do this.
Stay up to date all year on the Philadelphia Eagles by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Eagles on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Broncos walked off the Chiefs. The Denver Broncos are now in the driver's seat in the AFC West. They go to 9-2 after taking care of the Kansas City Chiefs with a late field goal, 22-19. They get a win at home. The Chiefs are now looking at 5-5 and having to maybe run the table just to get in to the postseason in the AFC. Sarah Bettinger from Locked On Broncos joins me now. And Sarah, this was a slog for both teams. We saw some vintage Travis Kelce in this game, some Patrick Mahomes magic, and yet it was the Bo Nix magic at the end that was the difference.
100%. And Bo Nix played a pretty great game otherwise, but when you needed him to step up in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 15, he finds Courtland Sutton for a 20-yard gain. 3rd down and I think 4 or 5, he finds Courtland Sutton again. And then after the Chiefs blew all their timeouts, then Bo Nix finds Troy Franklin deep downfield to set up the game-winning field goal. So situationally, he's been outstanding during this 8-game winning streak. But when you needed him the most to kind of get right against Kansas City, who was coming off a bye, I mean, the performance that Bo Nix had in this game, I think it was a huge testament to just his mental fortitude and what he brings to the table as this team's franchise QB.
What is it about Bo that they can't harness this fourth quarter magic in the first quarter? Like, I feel like if Bo Nix could play in the first 3 quarters, like we've seen him play in the fourth quarter, he'd be in the MVP conversation. So what is holding this team back right now?
I know. I was joking after the Giants game where they scored 33 points and he had 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I'm like, he's capable of a 16 touchdown game, right? Yeah. That's what I take from that fourth quarter. But no, all kidding aside, I don't know. I think a lot of the situations with the Broncos' inconsistency offensively this year, they come back to something that Bo has even called out himself, which is the tempo of getting the plays in, personnel changes, and then you have penalties on top of it. So you're running low on the play clock pretty much every time a play is called in. And then you have obviously players who are dropping passes. The Broncos have the 2nd most dropped passes of any team in the NFL. They're one of the most penalized offenses in the league. So the operation just not clean and you're not able to sustain drives. There's not enough plays for you to have any consistency until things really get going in the fourth quarter where there's desperation involved.
Defensively, we know what this Broncos team is capable of doing. And that's been the reason in these games that they've been able to win in the fourth quarter, that they've been in a position in the fourth quarter to get a little Bo Nix magic. This probably their stiffest test of the season. Patrick Mahomes in this offense, they had been rolling. They looked like the Patrick Mahomes that we saw a couple years ago when he was winning MVPs. But this defense is playing at a pretty elite level, even down some guys right now, Sarah.
Yeah, no Pat Surtain out there, so you're missing the defensive player of the year. And then you have Alex Singleton was just diagnosed with testicular cancer. He was out for this game. It's a crazy sort of situation for this whole defense. The team in general right now is about as banged up as they've been in the Sean Payton era. I mean, J.K. Dobbins on IR. You had all these different sorts of things come up sort of during the week that it felt like, okay, there's no way they're going to be able to beat Kansas City coming off a bye with some of your starters out, your green dot guy, your defensive player of the year. Well, they're finding ways. I mean, Vance Joseph deserves all the credit for the way that this unit has played, and they've been able to atone for their mistakes. They've been able to keep teams out of the end zone. And like you mentioned, when it comes down to keeping this or giving this offense a chance to do what it does in the fourth quarter, it's all traced back to the defense, the pass rush, the, creating long fields with special teams. I mean, the Broncos haven't been consistent or complimentary all season in terms of putting things together during this winning streak, but they've been opportunistic, and that defense has been the main common denominator through it all.
Are the Denver Broncos the best team in the AFC?
I think so, right? I mean, you look at the AFC right now, they were a leverage penalty away from beating the Colts, on a field goal there early in the season. And that was on the road for the Broncos. That was like the low point. They blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead against the LA Chargers as well. So it's just, you look at the rest of the AFC, who else looks better? I mean, Buffalo's given up points in droves and they got blown out by Miami. This Broncos team doesn't really get blown out. They lose some tough games. They haven't looked pretty. I guess that's the thing right now. It's like nobody in the NFL is really setting themselves apart.
Right.
I feel like the Broncos.
Why not Denver?
Why not the Broncos? Exactly. That's the sentiment I have.
And finally, Mark Andrews needed 4 yards and took a pass for 11 to rewrite the Ravens record book on the opening drive in Cleveland. The catch moved him past Derek Mason to 5,785 career yards and into a rare club, just the 5th tight end to lead a franchise in receiving, joining Ozzie Newsome, Antonio Gates, Travis Kelce, and Jason Witten. He already owns the Baltimore's touchdown and single-season yardage marks, and the reception crown is within reach. Not bad for a third-round pick who has become Lamar Jackson's favorite answer over the years. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, well, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, the Cowboys take their non-existent defense on the road to face the Raiders' non-existent offense. Who flinches first? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.